Hey everybody, Josh from Populi here, and we all know what word of mouth means. Simply put, it's when talking does making language so that someone else knows and they wouldn't unless you said it. Obviously, word of mouth is a great way to add to your list of leads, get information on prospective students. We're going to look at how you can build a form in Populi to make it easier for folks already connected to your school to point you towards their friends and family, distant acquaintances who might be interested. Also, we have an article in the knowledge base that covers the same material in case you prefer that. This will be most useful for admissions roles since it falls within their purview, but anyone with a staff role could set up the form. Let's get an overview of how this form would be used, and then we'll talk about how to set it up. Phil goes to Populi University, and he has a friend, Nora. He thinks she'd be a perfect fit for his school. He logs into Populi and goes to Home, Forms, finds the referral form. He fills that form out, entering Nora's contact info, maybe some details about why she's a fit. Your admissions team gets notified about a new form response. They then add Nora as a new person and link the response to her profile. Now, Nora has a profile in Populi, and the admissions team can keep things going. The next obvious step would be for them to go to Nora's admissions tab and add lead info. Now she's in the pipeline. That's the goal. One more thing real quick. When we're talking about respondent permissions, there's an important warning. If you ignore that warning, you could create some very real headaches for yourself, so make sure to tune into that. Under Home, go to Forms, and then into Manage Forms. Over on the right, you'll click Add a Form. Call it whatever you like. We're going to name ours Potential Student Referral Form. We just like the way it rolls off the tongue. First, we'll look at designing the form. We're not going to go super in depth on designing this form. We have a whole video on creating forms if you need it. As you design the referral form, keep in mind what you want to end up with. For instance, once you add this person, any data that you want to flow into the profile from the form, you'll want to create that as a linked field. Add fields for whatever sorts of contact info you like. That could be name, email, phone, mailing address, all of those make sense. We'd also recommend at least setting those name and email fields to required, just to make sure that your referrers have to add something of value in order to submit the form. But you probably don't want to make every field required, or else folks won't be able to submit the form if, for instance, they don't enter the mailing address. If you'd like to give referrers an opportunity to comment on what they believe makes this person a good candidate, your admissions admin should create a custom text field called something like referral comment. And then you can add and link that field here. We have a video that covers creating custom fields if you need that. Okay, let's look at the settings that will control how this form behaves. We probably want to manage access here, so we'll click into that. It makes sense to have some hierarchy for the admissions admin folks. So we want them to manage form and responses. That means that only folks with the admissions admin role can make changes to the form, and they can handle things on the responses once those come in. We'll add the admissions role here as well, and they probably don't need to manage the form, but it'll make sense for them to view the form and then manage responses. Of course, we'll want this published, but we'll do that once everything's good to go here. Here's where we could edit the title. We've already named this form, so we'll leave this alone. We want accept responses set to yes. If you want to receive responses, you have to. For login required, we'd assume that this form is for students and possibly other Populi users, staff, or faculty to use. So it makes sense to have this set to yes. On the field for respondent permissions, this is important. If you only want students to use this form, we'd use the drop down and you would choose that role. And then we want this field set to may submit unlinked responses. And then your team will be able to link those after you receive them. And if you'd like others, faculty, staff, etc., to use the form, you could choose everyone and set that to may submit unlinked responses. There's a chance here of creating a lot of confusion and complication, so I want to emphasize this. Make sure that you set this up so that these folks will submit unlinked responses. If you include a linked name field, and this is set up so that they're submitting linked responses for themselves, then you stand a chance of having any student who does this overwrite their own name with that referral name. That could get pretty dicey pretty quick. As long as the response is set to unlinked, you won't have that issue. So just make sure that you have this set up like this. Okay, response review. Let's click in, let's talk about it. This controls when the responses on the fields of the form flow into the fields on the profile. So if you collect an email address, it's likely that you want that to automatically move to a field on a profile once you connect this form to a person. If you want to know more about your options for reviewing fields, we cover that at the very end of the video. Okay, that covers the big stuff, and you can manage the rest of these settings according to your preferences. But we do want to have a look at a notification on this tab, which you'll probably want just to keep your team on top of these new leads. So we'll add a notification, and then for event, we're going to choose form response submitted. And we'll set this to send a system notification email to primary address. On the to field, we want this to go out to anyone on the admissions team. So we'll choose to send this out to everyone with the admissions role. And on CC, we'll set this one to go out to everyone with the admissions admin role. You can make the email very simple, just a subject line like new referral received. And then down here in the body, we'll do a variable for response content just to keep things interesting. There's lots more you can do with notifications, and we have a video on it. With that done, let's publish the darn thing. For published, we'll click in and we'll want to set this to published as yes, and also we'll select listed when available. Listed forms can be accessed by students and other Populi users whenever they like. Let's see what a response looks like. If your role can view responses when one comes in, you can go to Forms, Manage Forms, you'll click on the referral form, you'll go to Responses, and then click into a response. This part of the process will vary based on how you've set things up. But the big thing here is connecting this response to a person. The responses will come in unlinked, and over on the right, you'll see your options for getting them linked up. Of course, it's always possible that the lead is already in the system. If there's a likely match, Populi will suggest it. Then below that, you'll have more options. You can add this person in Populi, or you can continue to search for them yourself. Whichever option you choose, you'll link that response to a profile, and then you'll move forward with however you've chosen to review responses. And that's pretty much it, except for some further details about your response review process options. We're back on the referral form and we're looking at that response review field. Again, you have options for when these fields will flow over onto the profile to which you connect them. The review option exists so that you can prevent accepting substandard or incomplete responses by having a look first. If you're not concerned about that for this form, then the simplest option here will be none. This means that there's no review of the information in any of the fields, and as soon as you connect the response to a person, this information zips right over onto their profile. This means no additional clicking for your admissions team. If you choose Review here, then you have the option to set fields to either require review or not. Let's look at a field over here once we've changed this form to Review. If we edit this field, we can see a checkbox for Hold for Review. If you have this clicked, you'll have to accept the individual fields for the information within them to actually flow into the person's profile. So if you're editing the name field and you click Hold for Review, you'll have to accept the response in that field in order for the name to move over to that person's profile. You may want that to happen without that step, and if that's the case, you can unclick that box. So obviously on the form, you could have some fields set to automatically accept and some set to require review. And you have a further option there, which is to require not only the field to be set to accepted, but the overall response status to be set to complete. Holy moly, can you believe it? That's how you set up a referral form. A great way to keep up with updates and improvements to Populi as a software is via our weekly release notes. Those go out on Friday and you can follow them in our knowledge base. To do that, when you're logged into Populi, click on Help in the upper right-hand corner, click Search the Knowledge Base, then click Release Notes and Announcements. Click on the heading for Release Notes, and then click Follow. You'll receive an email when we post release notes there, and that'll keep you on the bleeding edge of Populi features and improvements. And the release notes are fun. Lots of people say it's a highlight of their week. I've been Josh for Populi. You've been great. Thanks for watching.